don't have any jokes to kill time. So while we wait, so this is the first of the pseudo-monthly CRLT Speaker Series. This is a tradition Cindy started when she was director of the CRLT, which we all really, really appreciated. For those who don't know, Cindy has now moved higher up in the structure here at the School of Ed to help even more people through the office of the Associate Dean of Research and Development, and was kind enough to support me in becoming the new director of CRLT. So it is our intention and our plan to continue the speaker series, inviting a range of speakers from, we always like to have at least one exciting person from on campus, which will be today, and then invite speakers from all over the country. Future weeks, we try to have a mix of people from mostly the academy, but some industry or adjacent, and also a mix of learning sciences, not learning sciences, et cetera. We will be sending out announcements very soon for the next speaker as soon as I finish locking down all the details. But you'll hear soon, and if you have suggestions for future speakers, I think we're set for this year, but definitely let us know for future years. And I think I have killed enough time. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Sarah Smith-Robbins, who is the Director of Learning Technologies over at Kelley, where she's been the director for over 12 years. And that's a pretty impressive role where she is coordinating and working with both technologists and instructional designers and media producers, and ultimately supporting the more than 450 faculty in the Kelley School, and somehow has enough free time to also teach her own courses and lecture, where she gets outstanding reviews and has received awards for the teaching. And her specialization is digital marketing and social media. One of the things that I think is particularly interesting about Sarah is her trajectory, starting with a BA in English, followed by an MA in literature, and then ultimately a PhD in rhetoric and composition, which sounds like, huh? Why would you be doing education in Kelley? I imagine you get that occasionally. And until you know that her dissertation actually looked at communication and learning in virtual worlds, and how the rhetoric helped understand that in new ways, in which case she was actually ahead of the curve using Second Life when that, I think is it still around?
I don't know.
When it was still cool, long before it got super cool. And I'm pleased to say, used activity theory in her dissertation. I can't take credit for that, but I can say we actually drew triangles together and talked about it when she was doing that work. So that is my claim to fame. And it's been my pleasure to work with Sarah over the years. Unfortunately, mostly we don't get to work together just to gossip about work on campus, but I did get to work on one project and watch her firsthand negotiate with clients about the difference between what was snazzy and cool, like putting video on everything, and what was actually pedagogically important, which is always her argument, pedagogy first, which we'll see in today's talk. And in fact, she's lectured in some of my courses, helping students think about rhetoric and composition, how we write arguments in our theory. And very early on when I was here, one of Sarah's classes used me as a client to think about social media and advertising, and some of our early Twitter practices were built on that feedback. So so I've gotten to watch Sarah's work for a very long time. Super excited for you all to hear more about it. And the last thing I'll say is over lunch or dinner, if you have a chance, when not talking about work, to ask about her Halloween decorations. They are amazing and have been featured in the Herald Times repeatedly, and are the one spot my family always goes no matter what for Halloween. Not just because there's good candy there, but because it is hands down the coolest setup in all of Bloomington. So on that note, but come back to that later. The research is even cooler.
Thank you.
Sarah.
The other thing to know about me is that I have triplets, all three of which have graduated from IU in the last year. Two who are still living in my house and won't get out. So I don't just work here, I'm also a customer of IU. I've been at Kelley for 15 years, and for 12 of those years, I've been the director of learning technologies. And I can talk to you a little bit about what that means and what I do, because it kind of gives context to how I'm going to explain what we do and the problems we run into and the solutions that we found to the problems. Feel free to interrupt if you have a question, if I'm casual, laid back about this, so no problem with that. Work? Do I have to aim it a certain direction?
Don't know.
I'm a technologist, can you tell? Okay, I'll click there.
Do you want me to stand there and click for you?
No, it's okay. So my degree is in rhetoric. I am not a business person. I've never taken a business class, though I teach business classes. I'm an interloper at Kelley. Don't tell them. My PhD's on the wall in my office, but I don't draw attention to it. Like that's business or something or other, you know. The reason why I'm there is that, so I lead the team that reminds faculty that pedagogy is important under the guise of, look, technology, bright and shiny. Let's actually teach better with it. So I have a relatively small team, but we support a lot. So this is Kelley. These are all of our degree programs. So Bloomington undergrad, that's 15,000 students right there. The rest of these are graduate programs or exec ed, continuing education programs. The thing we're probably known best for is our Kelley Direct Online MBA, which is about 1,500 students. This is where the money comes from anyway, but it's a lot of this other stuff. So we support undergraduate, but we also support graduate students online and in residence, and we support exec ed and continuing education as well as alumni education. So we have every kind of student that you can imagine from beginning to end, and my team supports all of that learning. So we have a really broad range of learners that we have to think about, which is, yeah, I didn't create this slide. This is from our dean. That's why that spins around and draws attention to itself, the KD one. So this is where we sit, just for context. So under the deans, we have our own IT organization, and then there are various groups within IT, and I'm learning technologies and media. So I have instructional designers and learning technologists, but I also have a studio, the Jellison Studio, which we got a $10 million gift from an alum to build. It is super awesome. And we have, as Joshua mentioned, over 400 faculty. So around 20,000 students and about 400 faculty. There are 3 of us, if I count myself, in that instructional design side, and 9 people under the media team. We're a small team to support 20,000 students and 400 faculty. I should tell my deans that. So these are the studios that we run, and they're awesome, but they're part of the problem. I'll put that in context. So we have 4 video studios, 2 of which are these kind of green screen studios, and 2 that have this curved video wall in them. So the green screen studios look like this. So we can do everything from virtual backgrounds to interviews, round tables, you name it, whatever the faculty want to film, we can do it live. So synchronous stuff and asynchronous stuff. And then we have 2 studios that look like this that have these large curved projection walls with these low throw projectors. So you can stand about, if that was the wall, you can stand about this far and not throw a shadow on it. So faculty can stand right in front of it. So a green screen, you're the weatherman, you have to imagine what's on it. But on these screens, you can see it. So you can actually point to it, and our producers can advance the content and change the content on the screen live if that's what they want to do. So we've got 2 of each kind. They're built so that 2 people can run them. So we need 2 producers for each studio at any one time to actually operate these studios. So this $10 million gift is great. These studios are beautiful. They're amazing. It's like a joy to walk in there every day. However, they introduce pressure, right? Now that you've got this creative space, this amazing space, what are you going to do with it? And it's not a small amount of pressure. It's a large amount of pressure. As I'm sure you all say, I have long said, pedagogy should always be first and technology should always be second. I used to joke I was going to get it tattooed on my arm, but I always wear a long sleeve, so I'd have to put it on my forehead or something so people could see it. And idealistically, this should be true, right? I mean, we know that this is right. It's about the learning outcomes first. And then whatever technology supports that, that's great. Implement it, make it happen, but not without some kind of learning outcome in mind. However, in reality, my world looks more like this. Right? And then you're nodding, so you've experienced this too. So an instructor or an administrator will bring us a technology and say, this is the brand new thing. This is the cutting edge thing. Do something. Like, but why? To what end? How are we going to know if it works? How are we going to know if it's beneficial? Just make it happen, right? And so we have this pressure every day. And so we have this constant tension between us and the learners and the instructors to figure this out. And some days that's easier than others. And we've found a few ways to kind of get around this. So this tension, I think of it as kind of a tug of war, right? Because there's equal pressure on both sides. And those both sides being the learners on one side, and they have their motives, right? So at Kelley, we are not shy about the reason why students are there. They are there because they want to get a better job. Period. You could ask every Kelley student why they're at school, and not one of them would say, to grow, as an individual, because I want to better myself. They'd say, because I want a job, because I want a better job, right? So they want value in their courses. They need to see value all the time. The first time I taught an MBA class, I literally had a student walk up to me at the end of the very first class meeting, where you just go over the syllabus and kind of introduce the class. This kid, he was probably my age, comes up to me at the end of the very first class and says, what's my return on investment in this class? What am I going to get out of it? I don't know. That's up to you, right? But they're not shy about it. So they want value. They want efficiency, which all of our students do, right? They don't want to spend more effort than they need to get what they need out. Unfortunately, most of them will say, I want to put as little effort in to get the best grade I can. That's the exchange undergraduates think of anyway. But they also want to be engaged. They don't tolerate things that are boring or seem irrelevant. We have to compete against everything else in their lives. And that's true of graduate students and of executive ed students too, continuing ed students. They have all kinds of other things dragging their attention. And so we have to make sure that whatever we're presenting to them is worthy of their time, it's beneficial to them, but it's also easy to spend their time doing it. And then on the other side of that tug of war, we've got faculty who have their own motivations, right? They also want a return on their investment. They want to know that if they spend a certain amount of time implementing a technology into their course or implementing some kind of new pedagogy into their course, that it's going to be worth it to them, that maybe they can do it once and then repeat it forever. They want it to be efficient. So it shouldn't take a lot of their time, specifically their time. But they also want this balance of effort. So this is a conversation I have a lot with faculty. I say, you know what, if you put some effort into your class, you could improve it so much and your students would pay so much more attention to this content. I'd say, here's your baseline effort. If you do this much, you'll get this much more engagement, right? And they say, well, what if I do this much? How much do I get, right? And the delta between those two is the student's problem, right? I'm going to teach what I'm going to teach. It's not my job to entertain them. It's not my job to make them want to learn. Why are they here if they don't? We get that pushback all the time. It's their job to put in the effort, right? If I'm teaching it the way that I know that it should be taught, which is the way I was taught it, however long ago that was, it's not my job to compete with all those other things. They should put in the effort. They should want to learn it. So they tug against each other. But these are not the only two forces that we have that compete with each other. We also have, of course, administration. Because of where we sit, we are aware of what administration wants. So this could be program or department chairs, or this could be deans within the school, or university administration. They want to know that whatever's going on in courses is effective, that students are actually learning things that are going to be beneficial to them, right? That they're going to get something out of it. They want it to be efficient, and they want it to be marketable. As an instructional designer, why do I have to think about that? Why do I have to think about how these courses are advertised, either to students or how they're advertised as the university against our competitors? But they think about it all the time. Obviously, they have to. And so we have to. They're part of that tug of war, right? They're pulling too because they want their needs to be met. And then we have all these outside groups like accreditors, rankings bodies, donors, corporate partners, alumni, who are also pulling the rope their direction. And we sit in the middle and have to design programs, courses, media, all kinds of stuff that meets all these needs. Is this kind of tension familiar to everybody? You experience this from time to time. And sometimes I think that we're the rope, and sometimes I think we're that ribbon in the middle, right? But the falsehood here is that in a tug of war, there's a winner, right? If you pull harder, the ribbon moves to your side, and if it moves to your side of the line, you win, right? So if learners get an efficient course where they don't have to put in a lot of effort to get the grade they want, they win. If faculty get to design their course once and teach it for the next 20 years without ever changing it and have AI edit everything, they win, right? But we can't let either side win. As the pedagogy experts, we can't let that happen, because if one group wins, everybody else loses, basically. So in addition to all of this tug of war, we also have the environment with which we exist. We're business people, so we think about it as the market instead of the environment, right? So we have competitors, old and new. So we've got competing business schools, obviously, but we also have alternative forms of education, certificate programs, badging programs, LinkedIn Learning, all that kind of stuff that's coming onto the market that for a business school is a direct competitor to us. It's one of the most common topics that they're going to cover, right? But we also have things like the enrollment cliff, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and just the changing value, the perception of the value of education. How much is it going to cost me versus what I'm going to get out of it? If I can learn that thing on my own and get that job anyway, why should I invest in an education? Why should I have to take my undergrad core courses that are required that are not related to the job that I want? Don't make me take those. Just let me take what I need. And if we don't give it to them, they're going to find it somewhere else. So we're competing against all that, and we have to take all of that into account. It's a mess. All of these people pulling, everybody wanting what they want, it's a mess, and it's difficult to navigate. What we have learned that works is instead of thinking about there being some kind of center line that the winner tugs the rope across, we think of a zone of success. We want everybody to pull really hard to keep it in the middle. And it's our job to ensure that that happens, that nobody wins, right? That it doesn't all go one direction or another. And it's strange as somebody who's in charge of learning technologies to think that that's my job, to have this overview, this 1,000-foot view of the whole school and the whole universe that we fit in, and think about my team is what keeps us afloat, but we kind of are. Because we touch everybody, every student, every instructor, all these other parties we touch. And so we get to kind of maintain this zone of success where no one gets to pull it too hard. Does the tug of war kind of model make sense to everybody? Okay, so let me give you examples of how we use this model to kind of navigate the challenges that we face. This is what I should have called this talk, but I don't think you would have come. And believe me, I was not a business person either when I started at Kelley. I faked it until I made it. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Our online MBA program comes to us and says, hey, that VR stuff is pretty neat. All of our students like it. It's going to be a big deal. None of our competitors are doing it yet. Now, this is an online program, right? The students are all over the world, and they're graduate students. So they have careers already, they have families, and we're supposed to give them VR headsets. And not only did they come to us and say, we want to do something with VR, they didn't know what they wanted to do, and they'd already bought 15 headsets. Okay, how are we going to do something? And we can't just say no, right? We've got to figure it out. So we go back to our model. In the scenario that was given to us, it was basically the ribbon's already way up here. The whole importance of this is just because it makes us more competitive. It makes us look cool in the market. That was the only reason they wanted to do it. That was the only justification. And we can't have that, right? We've got to get that ribbon back down there. So we started thinking, okay, how do we get some kind of pedagogical value out of this technology that makes the program happy, but also the students actually benefit from it, and it becomes something that is marketable for the program that they can squawk about outside just to promote the program in a way that students will understand. So the way we solve this problem is that, so the online MBA programs come to campus once a year. So you're in a 2-year program, you're required to come to campus twice. And they come for a week, we call it Kelley on Campus. And while they're here, they do an intensive case for a week as a team. And this year, the case that they were presented with was about the Little 500. And they were supposed to expand the market for the Little 500 to find ways that that event could be more family friendly, could attract new people to come and not just the same old drunk undergrads and alums, right? But the program was going to happen a month after the Little Five happened. And these are students who are not Kelley graduates. They didn't undergrad Kelley. They've never been to a Little Five. They have no idea what it's like. And we jumped on this thing. So we used a drone to do 360 footage of the whole track, right? And then we used 360 cameras on the day of the races. We put them on poles. So a couple of my producers were standing around the race with 360 cameras on poles, dodging drunks, right? And filming this event in 360. And then we put it into the VR. So when the students came to campus, they could put the headset on and see what it's like to actually be there. So there was a little map of the track. There were 6 camera positions, and you could click on one and then be in that spot, look around, hear the audio, see the people stumbling around, the bikes going by, and really experience it. So there was pedagogical value in it. It actually gave them an experience that they wouldn't get otherwise that benefited what they were doing in the case. Now, this was a good 4 months after we got this, like, here's a bunch of VR headsets, do something with it. We had to kind of hold them off for a little bit, but it worked, and the students really liked it and found it to be valuable. They actually got something out of it. We did a little survey with them afterwards and said, you know, was it worth your time? They spent about 15 or 20 minutes in the headsets, and then they had the option of putting them on again later in the week if they wanted to. And they almost unanimously said, yes, that was actually useful. I actually used the information I got from that during the case when we were developing our answer. So it worked. So we were able to, like, you know, pull that target back down into the zone of success. Yes, it's a little towards the market. It's still a little nichey. It's still a little, you know, bright and shiny, but it actually, we could justify it. It had a pedagogical value. So we were able to pull it back. The students liked it. The administrators liked it. The program liked it. All good. Another challenge that we've got is consistent course design. Every course has Canvas site. Students are highly intolerant of disorganized courses. So we see comments on course evals that say things like, I can't find anything. All my courses are different. Some people keep everything in files and some people use modules, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do and where I'm supposed to find it. And we have some faculty who have been teaching, I swear they imported their course from OnCourse into Canvas and haven't changed it since. If you've been at IU that long, you know what I'm talking about. But then we also saw this question on the course evals where students evaluate how well their instructor uses technology. And it directly correlates with the organization of the course, right? If the course is sloppily organized and they can't find anything, they hold it against the instructor. It's their fault that it's bad. And it is. It is their fault that it's bad, right? Because they're not taking our advice and doing what we advise them to do. And so we knew that this was a problem. It also shows up on ranking surveys when they survey students about the school. So not just the students cared. So the students definitely cared about it, but administrators also cared. Faculty don't care, right? Most of them don't care. Now, if they're pre-tenure and their course evals kind of matter, they might care a little. If their lecturers or adjunct and their course evals really matter, they might care. But our tenured faculty basically said it's their job to dig and find what they need. It's not my job to make it look pretty. I'm not going to bother. I'm making our faculty sound awful. They're not. But they don't like to do work that they don't need to. So our solution to it was to come up with templates for Canvas. And IU has a template. Our faculty hate it. They just delete it, right? Because it's made for everybody. It's made to be the maximum wide use. And so what we did was we created Canvas templates that were specifically for certain kinds of courses, structures that are common within the business school, like a case-based approach. If you teach a case at the business school, you basically teach it the same way every time. You have to read it, then you have to do a little bit of research, then you have to state your personal opinion, then you engage with other people in some way and either coordinate your opinions or evaluate one another's opinions, right? So we created a module structure that was made for that. We created one that was for flipped or hybrid classrooms. If you're going to teach this way, here's a way that you can do it. Just drop your stuff into this. You don't have to reinvent it. You're probably doing all these things. Your students just don't know where to find it. Or if you teach in teams, about 60% of our courses have at least one team project in them, and it's what our students complain about a lot because it's just a lot to coordinate. They want it to be more efficient. We said, okay, let's create modules that work for team projects just to simplify it as much as possible for faculty to implement this. We offered to put their first 2 weeks into a template for them if they wanted us to. They had to ask, but if they wanted us to, we would do it. And then they were on their own for the rest of the course because we have thousands of courses, right? So we can't do it for everybody. About 25% took us up on that first module, and then about another half of those came back and said, can you do the rest with me? If you can't do it to me, can you do it with me? And so we've got a pretty good adoption, not as much as we'd like, but a pretty good adoption. Students are happy though. The student surveys show that the courses they're just better in every way. All of a sudden you organize it and it's just perceived to be better. So the faculty evals have gone up, not just on the technology question, but on how well does your, prepared does your professor seem to be? That question went up with the faculty who implemented the templates versus the ones who didn't. So we did have some kind of positive impact. Now, are they all happy with it? Do they all want to do it? No. But we're getting there, right? So we're pulling it a little bit more into the center so that everybody wins. It definitely pleased our ranking groups though, because they got the information they got from students is that the courses are of a higher quality and better presented. So by pulling it in that direction, we got that benefit too. This is a big one for us right now. And it's a good example of how we're not just designing courses. We have this kind of 1,000-foot view of a lot. So our accreditation process requires an assurance of learning. And the way we used to do it is a dipstick method. So we've got a group of core courses that are required. Every semester, a random selection of those faculty would be asked to do an assurance of learning study on their course. So they would choose one SLO from their program, choose one assignment that assesses that SLO, and write like a 500-word narrative connecting them and submit it. And we would give that to our accrediting body to say, look, we prove it, right? But it's a dipstick. It's anecdotal and it's not longitudinal. What they really want to see is that we're improving over time, that we're implementing plans to improve those SLOs over time. But we didn't have that in place because of the way that we did it. And so we've decided that we need to change the way we do it. So this was largely driven by our accreditation body and by our administration. They're the ones who really wanted us to be able to accomplish this. So the way we've done it is using Canvas outcomes. Is anybody familiar with Canvas outcomes? Somewhat, yeah. Sure, yeah, the people who study assessment know all about it, right? Yeah. So what Canvas Outcomes does is it sits above the courses within the sub-account in Canvas, and you give it the SLOs for the programs that have courses in that sub-account. And then all the instructors have to do is connect an assessment of any kind to the SLO. So they say, this quiz matches to that student learning outcome in my course. And then from my point of view, I can generate a report that says, here are all the SLOs in our undergraduate finance degree. Here are all the courses that connect to the SLOs. And I can also say, and here's one that nobody's connecting to. Or here's one that's connected in half of the courses. Really? Right? Is it really meaningful to connect to it in all those courses? Because it's like business presentations. Like, yeah, they do presentations in all those classes, but they don't actually teach presentations in all those classes. So is that really where it should be? So we made it super easy for faculty to make that connection. Now, I still have instructors who tell me they don't even need SLOs in their course. I know what I teach. I don't need to put that in my syllabus. Like, they still push back. But of the converts, because they're kind of required now by the deans to do it, they have to play games with us now. They are willing to make that connection, or we help them do it. We do it for them. Now, here's where I'd like it to go, though, right? So this benefits faculty, it benefits administration, it benefits the market, it benefits our accreditors. What it doesn't benefit is students, because they don't see it. It's invisible to them, except the SLOs listed in their syllabus. What I would like to do is take this and equate it to a skills map, so they can see from their point of view of all their courses, what skills have they accumulated, what knowledge have they accumulated, and where their holes are, and then match that to a career path. You want to be a marketing manager? Here are the skills that marketing managers have. Here's what you've got from your courses. Here's the difference. Here are the courses that cover those. This is what you should take. I've been pushing for that for 10 years. Nobody's ready for it yet, because I don't think they want to see that there might be bad news there, maybe. But it's getting easier with AI, especially scraping job descriptions from LinkedIn. We can do it really easily. And the students are definitely interested in it, but we've not implemented it yet. But that I'm hoping is the next step, so that we actually get, if you didn't know what those are, we actually get that green circle around the learners too, because they would benefit from that more than anybody. And then the last example I'll give you is one that I don't have an answer to. Going back to our studios. So this is one that we're facing just now. Our online MBA program especially, but all of our programs come to us and say, you've got this brand new studio. It's really awesome looking. You should make innovative learning videos. We say, well, what's innovative? You know, innovative. Okay. What is that? How do you know? Like, do you know what that looks like if you see it? You know, innovative. And they can't define it. And we can't define it for them, right? What's innovative in finance versus marketing versus something else? Now, as consumers, these same people, administrative and faculty people, know when they see something on YouTube that it feels innovative to them or it's not innovative to them, but they can't quite quantify what that difference is, other than I'm interested in watching that, but not that. Well, is that the content? Is it the presenter? Is it the way the video is edited? Is it what's on screen? Is it all of that? Is it when you just happened to encounter it, where you were at mentally, that it felt new and awesome to you? They can't define it. So we can't succeed in doing it because they can't define it. But it comes up like, I don't know, twice a week. When are you guys going to create something innovative down there? When are you going to do something innovative in that studio? So we're getting pulled from administrative edges, especially because they want marketable, innovative, like, it's not just that it has to be new and unique, but it also has to be new in a way that anybody recognizes. So if I just show you the video and you're a prospective undergrad student, you should see it and go, ooh. Or if you're an alum and you're over 60, you should see it and go, ooh, what is that? Like, what does that even mean? You know, we thought that the VR thing was pretty innovative, and everybody kind of assumed that it was because it was new technology, new approach. But when it's just video for courses, that's really hard to define. And the faculty are super resistant to this because it's something they have to do with us. We can't do it at them or to them because they're the subject matter experts. They have to collaborate with us. And they don't know what to do with that either. So the approach that we've taken is we did the research and we looked at the most popular YouTube channels that are informative. So not sensationalist, but like informative. So if you want to know how to do something or you want to know more about a topic, what channels do you go to most often? And then we sorted those by ones where people are most likely to watch to the very end of the video, because that's another criteria. It could be innovative in the first 30 seconds, but if nobody watches the whole thing, what's the point, right? So we sorted it by that. And what we found from the channels that we kind of narrowed that down to that was common is narrative. These are channels that use stories to teach things. So if you want to know about how black holes work, you don't go and watch an advanced physics lecture if you're not a physicist. You go and you watch Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? And he uses a metaphor to explain how black holes work. He uses a story with an illustration, and it's conversational and it's informal. And so what we decided was that narrative was at least one element of what makes something what we call SWIM, which is surprisingly watchable instructional media. That's our goal, is SWIM, right? Like, okay, so this is at least going to make a SWIM video. If it's not innovative, I don't know. But if it's innovative in that everybody watches it, it's in a course and they watch it all the way through, that would be pretty groundbreaking compared to the talking heads that they have to watch now, right? So we put a call out to the faculty of just our online MBA program because they are most reliant on video. And we said, who wants to make one video with us that is something that nobody else on campus has ever made? Your students have never seen a video like this out of your course or of any course. They've seen it on YouTube. They've never seen it in a course, right? Who wants to do it? This is what it's going to take. It's going to take 10 hours of your time. You need to come up with a story related to a concept because we can't come up with that story. We can help you tell it, but we can't invent the story. We don't know. And we're only taking applications for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We have 110 faculty who teach in that program, and over 10% of them replied in the first 3 days. Because it was like a dare. But it was specific. It was, we want you to tell a story, you know? And so they could immediately kind of think about a possibility, like there's a story in their industry that makes their discipline necessary, or there's a topic in their course that there's a really good story related to, or a really good metaphor related to. And they had to include that in their email when they applied to us. They had to explain what that was going to be because we're not drawing that out of anybody. That's way too much time. They need to come prepared with at least that. We've never had that kind of uptake. I mean, that was a lot. And they've still got a few days as we speak. They've still got a few days to reply to us. This is like brand new, hot off the press stuff. And we're going to work with every one of them. Not all at once, hopefully. Hopefully they don't have a course that starts in winter term or something. But we're going to work with every one of them. And we couldn't have got that kind of reaction if we didn't, A, identify one element that we thought was going to be recognizable as innovative. We had to put our foot on it and make that specific for them, and then kind of dare them to do it with us. I don't know that they'll all be successful, but some of them will be, and we'll have that many more good videos than we had before. So you might be wondering, like, so what, Sarah? Like, yeah, that's great. You think of tug of wars and you know, try to keep the ribbon in the middle and you try to keep the zone of success going. Why does that matter? It matters for a couple of reasons. One, if you're going to go into this field, if you're a grad student and you think you're going to be any kind of instructional designer or in charge of instructional design, you need to understand that you have superpowers that you don't know that you have. You can make or break programs, schools, everything, right? You can single-handedly do something that advances a school in ways that they don't even imagine. Because we're in this weird position where we see everything, right? Where we're involved in all of it. If you want to be, I know lots of instructional designers who work at other campuses, who even work at IU, who sit in cubicles, they receive materials from faculty and they return Canvas sites, and that is their whole job. And we refuse to do it that way. We just won't do it that way. We're going to take a much more, you know, proactive role in what that means to design that course and what the impact of that course is going to be. And then we talk to all those stakeholders about what we're doing all the time. Tell them what we're doing, get ideas from them, talk about how what we're doing is important to what they want, and ask them what else they want, and see if we can accomplish what they need via what we do, which is not really in our job description. Well, it wasn't. It is now, but it wasn't in our job description. So that's an important element. But the other thing is that it's really easy to think about this tug of war as being a constant battle for who's going to win, right? It's this rope that everybody's always tugging against. It's a zero-sum game. If somebody wins, somebody else has to lose. And I choose not to think of it as a rope that is being tugged so hard so somebody can win. I think of it as, if we are the rope, we are the connectors. We're the only group that touches everybody. And so it's our job to keep that balance. And it doesn't work if everybody's not pulling hard. Everybody has to pull hard to keep that thing in the middle. If anybody gives up, it goes off to one direction. And we end up with courses that are, you know, beautiful but not effective. Or we end up with courses that are easy to design, but nobody's learning from them, right? Or we end up with classes that are really great for undergrads, but nobody else. We can't design for graduate students or continuing ed or anything like that. Or the market doesn't know what it is that we're doing that is so cutting edge that should want to bring more students to the school. And so we have to think about everybody pulling really hard for what they want and what they know is important, while keeping that balance so that the whole system works. And I think it's a different way of seeing instructional designers and technologists than most people do, but it works for us. And it's the way we stay afloat, supporting so many students and so many faculty. What questions can I answer?
I have a question. I liked everything about your talk because I teach instructional design
I
courses.
saw you nodding a lot. Like,
Yeah. So how did you build the trust within School of Business School, and then how did you come to be the person that is not in the office that people come to you, but you are open, you reach out to people? So how about that culture?
That's an important question. So part of it is what is a smart decision on the school's part, and part of it is proactive on our part, is a really push on our part as a team. So on the school's part, I sit on the bridge. It's that hallway that connects the undergrad and grad building where all the deans sit too. And I'll tell you, I didn't apply for my job. I got picked for my job. I got put in my job. I've never applied for a job. I don't even know what that's like. I've had jobs created for me, or I've been recruited for jobs. It's very strange. But it's like a symbolic thing. By putting me there, it means that the deans are they got my back. And so the program chairs and faculty chairs kind of respect that and see the position in that level. And that really helps. That gives us, we say we have responsibility without authority. It's a little bit of inferred authority that I sit there, I guess, and that I have a PhD, and some people, don't. So it helps. I get a little bit more respect from faculty. So there's that. The other thing is that I think it's maybe because I'm a rhetorician. that when I came into the position, I just said, we've got to convince people that what we do is important, or we're going to go away probably, because there's UITs. There's a whole EDS group over at UITs that does kind of what we do. So why should we have our own unit? And so I think initially I targeted the department chairs and program chairs because I knew they were the decision makers who could apply pressure, and just set up meetings with them and said, here's awesome things we're doing. What can we do for you? And kind of sold them on it a little bit. But then we targeted individual faculty who were doing things we'd heard about, like, you do this in your class and that's really interesting. Can we help you do that better? So we went for like little lifts in already kind of successful approaches to improve them. I also teach in the marketing department. I think of things as kind of a communicator and as a marketer too. So it also has to do with how we introduce stuff. So I'm sure you guys are aware of the DOE guidelines about accessibility that are coming down. Yeah, it's a big deal. The ally graphs, the little, whatchamacallits, I think they go from red to green. The little meters that are on everything in Canvas that tell you how accessible it is. Well, there's a summary for every course and there's a summary for every program in every department, right? So the way that we're going to approach increasing accessibility and meeting those guidelines is by publishing those dashboards. And by letting finance see that accounting is more accessible than they are. And we're here to help. If you want help, we'll help you. We won't do it to you, but we can help you. And it's a communication strategy more than anything. And that it's worked.
So the question from the chat,
Okay.
which is, what are your thoughts about learners as consumers? Do you believe learners' choice is driving quality of education in the market?
Yes, yes, yes. All of that, yes. It's a tug, right? Again, as instructors, as educators, we know that we have to help them learn a certain amount of stuff and that it's beneficial for them, and they want to pull the other way and say, I want it fast, cheap, easy. We see that especially in the business school. There's a demand for things like badges and certificates that have very little work involved. Or can I just test out and get a degree from Kelley that proves that I know how to do what I know how to do? We make very little money off of that, so why would we bother with that? We won't, but we'll do it for like a little bit. We'll do it to get your foot in the door, right? We're still figuring it out though. So we had two degree programs in edX for a while, where edX was the kind of, the first hits free kind of deal. So students took the edX courses and passed them with a high enough score, and they were all asynchronous, MOOC courses basically. If they passed a series of courses there, then if they applied to the degree program that they were associated with, those would convert into credits towards their completion, like elective, basically credits. That was kind of our first foray into that, like kind of commodified education, kind of meeting people where they are, giving them some credit for what they already know or can easily learn on their own. It didn't work. I mean, it was awful. It was really awful. It was the base of learners was way too diversified. Some of them had no real intentions. Some of them had real intentions, and it was too difficult to wrangle all those different, kind of groups. But we're still getting a lot of interest even within the school for doing like specialized certificates in addition to degree programs. So you're getting a marketing degree, but you take a couple of accounting courses or a couple of finance courses and kind of specialize your own degree. So there's that. And then there's the continuing ed stuff that we offer to alums, where we just take the IP that we've already developed for courses and kind of rinse it off a little bit, and offer it in more of a wider kind of self-paced way. It's very little development effort for us because the content already exists. Somebody's already teaching that. All we've got to do is convert it into something that's a bit more self-directed, and then we can offer it to alums for no cost or for a little cost. So that's kind of where we're putting our foot in the water there first.
So this is maybe an unfair question because it's probably its own separate presentation. But what are some of your like big takeaways from the pandemic where everyone was forced to do things with technology, whether they wanted to or not, whether they felt comfortable with that or not, both students and faculty? What did you learn anything that you feel like we really need to start considering that moving forward rather than just saying, well, that was the thing we had to do and now we can go back to normal?
I don't want to say the pandemic was good. Okay, it was not a good thing. It was obviously a bad thing. But a good thing that came out of it was that when every instructor had to suddenly teach online, they realized how bad they were at it. We were telling them they were bad at it, and they didn't believe us because they've never taken their own class. But then when they suddenly had to do it, they realized how they didn't know how to do it. And so when we came back, we had far more interest in teach me how to teach better. Teach me how to do this better. So the perception of our value as a team went way up all of a sudden, right? It went up through the pandemic, but after the pandemic a lot. It didn't occur to me before that how few of our instructors had ever taken an online class as a student. Very few of them. And so they didn't know what it was like to be a learner online. They hadn't experienced it. But then when they had to learn how to do this stuff, they became students real fast because we were offering workshops like 3 times a day in the first couple of weeks, like how to record on Zoom, how to edit your own videos, how to do this, how to do that. And they became learners, and we tried to show them how to teach better that way too. So that definitely helped. It definitely prepared us for a more flipped model that we have to lean towards now. Now, my deans will tell you it's not because of room availability that we have more hybrid courses. That's not why. It's because it's a better way to teach those classes, right? But having had that little experience of teaching online, those faculty who now teach hybrid courses understand a little bit of what they don't know about the online half of their week and how to engage students better. And again, they're much more likely to take our advice and get our help and actually take our help because they experience that. I don't think we would have our studio if not for COVID, because it really drove home how bad videos are shot from laptops up faculty noses. Just get a shoebox. Just put your laptop on a shoebox. That's all you've got to do. No, here's my nose, right? It drove home the difference in quality and what we could do as professionals that most people can't do on their own. Yeah, so those are probably my biggest ones I took away from it. Mm-hmm.
So asking for grad students in the room who might want to work for you or someone like you elsewhere.
There's nobody.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah. So someone who would like to become you in the future,
Yeah.
what kinds of things would you encourage them to make sure are on their CV that would show that they know how to balance all these ideas? Or yeah, what would you look for if you were hiring? Besides an IU degree in LTA, yeah, of course.
I think what's helped me and what I would be looking for is somebody who thinks bigger than a course. I mean, that's fundamentally part of it, is that you think bigger than one class. What can we learn from it? What can we take away from it? What can we apply to other things? But also thinking about where does that course fit, not only in terms of the program or whatever that it's situated in, but also as a teaching approach. Can we learn something from it and apply it somewhere else and benefit that other person in some way? Somebody who's willing to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. My whole team knows it's okay to say, I don't know, but not if you don't follow it, but I'll find out. Right? So you always want to learn something new and want to try something new. I look for people who are voluntarily playing with things that they don't have to. You know, like, what are you teaching yourself right now? If you don't have an answer, I don't want to talk to you. Like, if you don't have enough intellectual curiosity to be playing with something, you know, that might make you a more interesting person or better at your job, then I don't want to know. A lot of what we're looking at right now is AI, because again, it is this It's the VR headset of this week, right? It's the, we've got it, it's everywhere. What are you going to do about it? Guess what? It's running rampant all over the school, you know. How are we going to benefit from it? Students are using it, faculty are using it, you know, in ways that we didn't predict and we didn't think about. How do we get ahead of that and make sure that they're using it right, that they're getting the most value out of it now, but they will in the future too? Because we've already got recruiters coming to Kelley saying, we want students who know how to use AI for business. Well, if we're not teaching that, they can't know it, or they taught themselves and it's maybe flaky. And so we're always looking for people who can help us kind of predict what the next thing is, so we can get ahead of it too.
Awesome. Well, I think we're out of time, but thank you so much for the lunch on the balcony for whoever would like to join.
All of it.